Yo, welcome back, everyone, everybody, to heDONizm. This is episode 7. And you know what? I told myself if I can do this 7 times, I can continue. So everyone, everybody, welcome back. I'm Dante. I go by Mecca Don to Don Mecca. Some may even call me Rick James. Why? Because I'm cold-blooded in the streets. Some may know me as Coach. Also in the streets, some may know me as Ref. But if you know, you know. Guys, I said it before and I say it again. The court is packed. Like the court is extremely packed, especially during this time of the year. Guys, we're in the age of cancel culture, judged by the court of public opinion. And I'll be careful with my words, but just in case I drop a noun, an adjective, an expletive even, please don't hold me to it. You guys know what it is. Say it with me. I'm just here to pod. Guys, in true heDONism fashion, I always like to start out with gratitude, and that's no exception for today. So guys, as always, I'm grateful for you for tuning in. 7 episodes, and we are rolling and also gaining momentum. I'm also grateful for what hip hop has done to not only myself, but our community. With that being said, I am happy to announce, ladies and gentlemen, just in case you do not know, in the 2024 Olympics, hip hop will be taking its form and competitive format. What do I mean? Breakdancing, battling will be a part of the 2024 Olympics. Now, there's going to be 2 categories. There's going to be one for the women's, and then there's going to be one for the men's category. But it's going to be B-girl and B-boy category. So I'm so excited to see the evolution of hip hop. And yes, it was all a dream, right? But here we are embarking upon the 2024 Olympics. And yes, breakdancing, b-boying will be a part of that. And it's categorized as a new sport. Now, they've done it in some of the summer games and some of the Pan Ams. I think I got that right. But you guys know what I'm saying, right? If you know, you know. But now it's declared a new sport, and it's been successful in the past, but now they are bringing it to the 2024 Olympics, and I'm so happy for that. USA, let me just tell you right now, you're on notice. Because if you've watched world competitive breakdancing, they don't like Americans. And I'm telling you, they are getting busy and in true hip-hop form, doing it to the fullest. Guys, I wanted to start off with a good note because I'm coming to you yet again. Not sure if I have to issue a trigger warning here. This should not trigger my listeners and my followers out there, but I do want to give a follow-up to a previous pod that I had. And I spoke of a Takia Young. Yes, you remember her from Ohio at the K. Rogers with the shooting that took place at the Blackburn Township Kroger. This young lady is no longer with us. She was shot by a police officer. I gave the details in a previous pod. If not, please go back and watch that pod where I'm giving details and actually a couple of different vantage points. And shout out to all of you guys out there who've said thank you. I had no idea that this was going on, but also the vantage points that I provided. Well, I want to enlighten, but also at this time, I have to come to you with a bitter follow-up, right? And we know her life was lost, right, through shooting. But moments leading up to the shooting of Takia Young, in this particular Kroger of the Blackburn Township, there is a certain section, right, where they separate the produce and the dry foods from the liquor or the liquor or the wine and spirits. However you want to frame it, there's a separate section which is compartmentalized outside of the normal shopping area. Man. Their surveillance camera or their surveillance footage of Takia Young, along with 2 other females, that came into the liquor or the wine and spirits section. And it's not 4K, but it's very legible. I mean, there's no denying that it is Takia. I'm sorry, I think I'm saying her name wrong. It's Takia. Takia Young and 2 other individuals were walking up in the joint. Guys, I can't make this up. I've already laid the context of who she was. A mother of two with a baby girl in tow. So she was expecting. Very obviously expecting. Y'all, I'll say it again for the cheap seats. I can't make this up. Takaya Young and the two girls that were with her. Let me speak about the two girls first. These young ladies went up in the liquor store portion of the K. Rogers and was literally housing bottles. But guess who else was doing it? Takaya Young. Now, I don't know if there's that much CG work to embellish what happened. I mean, it was obvious. It was on surveillance footage. And you remember when I said, hey, I'm not running bail for her? What are you doing? I said I had questions. What are you doing drinking? Or what are you doing in even the alcohol section as a pregnant woman? Right? To each his own. But the last time I checked, there's some healthy measures that you have to take as a pregnant woman. Takaya Young was seen on surveillance camera housing bottles as well. And I don't know if I'm describing this purse right, but it seemed to be a bucket purse or that of a beach bag. That's the best way I can put it. Fellas, it was big enough to put some shoes and maybe some gym trunks in. But bottle after bottle after bottle. This young lady was literally stashing them in the bag that I explained. And it appeared that there was one customer in front of her. So she goes and get in line as if she's going to check out. So we got a legitimate situation here, right? And let me just go back to the previous pod when I gave you context and details about when she was in a parking lot. When the officer knocked on the window, he said, get out of the car. We need to talk, blah, blah, blah. She said, for what? I ain't still bleep. Yes, you did. Or at least that's what the footage shows us. The tape was pretty obvious. I mean, there's ways to embellish tape, but this one was pretty obvious. Again, it wasn't in 4K, it wasn't in 720, but as grainy as the tape was, you can literally make out that it was a pregnant female. And the math actually maths on this situation because it's the same ID of the young lady that was in the car. Same shirt, expecting mother, time and place. You guys see where I'm going. I hate to be the one. And here's the most nauseating part for me. What was the intent for Takaya to be in there? And then for the other two ladies, again, bring full nausea to me. That you guys, I can't even deep dive into this to make it make sense. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we have a deceased mother that was expecting. You guys to chill. I want to park here for a second. I just can't. I've been running this through my mind over and over, and I think we would have had an ounce of compassion for this lady. Not even compassion, just an ounce of grace. If she was maybe, it's hard for me to even utter the word, stealing for her child or children. And baby formula, the prices have hiked tremendously on the baby formula since COVID, right? There was a point in time where you couldn't even find formula during COVID, right? So if this was a situation, maybe we'll have a little grace. And I'm sure there are programs, there are churches, there are community members out there and community activists that can say, hey, we can assist you with this. No, it wasn't that. Not food, not household goods, not sanitary wipes, baby wipes. You guys see where I'm going with this. It was alcohol. But at the same time, first of all, we don't stand with that type of behavior. But I tell you something else we don't stand with. Stealing should not be a death penalty. You got to chill. So last pod, right? As I switch. And I wanted to follow up with that because if I can be the voice as a champion for police brutality, if I can be a voice of champion for civil unrest, I can also be a voice and champion to say that do better because you know better. The last time I checked, we know that stoves are hot. Don't put your hand on it. Last pod, I had someone to reach out to me and say, hey, yo, Don, when was the last time you saw a 45, right? And I said, just the other day. So I had to bring it to light right here that, yes, hip-hop even made its way on 45s. If you remember, right, even as a DJ, when someone says, I want to do a 70s party, we want to keep it bumping with, the 70s groove wave, and we want to get that kind of vibe going on. So when I started to play hip-hop, you kind of see heads turn. No, this is a 70s party. But if you remember, right, based off of 1420 Sedgwick Avenue, right, they did it in a park, right? This was the 70s last time I checked. So that constitutes as 70s, right? And we always think bell bottoms and stacks and afros. But what about the B-boys and the B-girls and the MCs and the graph writers and the DJs, right? So consider that when you're thinking of the 70s. When it comes to just those parties, just a little something I wanted to throw out there. But I want to talk a little bit about the irony in hip hop. So if you go back to September 13th, 1994, I gave a soliloquy moons ago about my love for Biggie, right? Well, in 1994, the Ready to Die was done by the late, great, notorious B.I.G. And then here's the irony. 2 years later, in 1996, same day, September 13th, 2 years later from the Ready to Die release, our beloved Tupac Shakur died. Just the irony of the September 13th date for the release, and then 2 years later, the death of Pac. But if we fast forward 27 years later, the dream continues, Biggie. From the death of Pac and 30 years of the release to the Ready to Die, Diddy, now known as Love, and also his new label called Love Records, dropped a new banger, right? It's the Love album called Off the Grid, or the Love album Off the Grid is the subtitle, right? But on September 15th, just 2 days from the irony of the 13th of September, Diddy dropped his album. Let me tell you something. It's some bops on that joint. I ain't gonna hold you, Slim. There's some joints on there. Like, if you are an R&B head, let me give you a little context and reference, right? First of all, we know Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs, has a great ear for production. Let's just admit that right there, right? From the Mary J's to the Jodeci's, the Uptowns, with the collaboration under the influence of Andre Harrell, all of those things that brought him to fruition to be Bad Boy, one of the greatest labels outside of your Death Rows and some others, the Def Jams, right behind me, over my right, your left, you'll see the Def Jam recordings. It's almost like for the DJs, when you saw that Def Jam label, you knew something strong and something special was coming either in that record pool or that vinyl that you purchased when you saw that label. But getting back to Puff, right? Love as his new name, as he goes by his new name, right? He has some slaps on this album. Now it's a featurette, right? He does get involved on the vocals. He may give you some bars, or he may give you some auto tune, but nonetheless, the man knew his assignment when making this record. I listened to it nonstop. It is one of those for you cigar smokers, right? Especially at this time of the weather when you want to get out, light you a little candle, maybe get you a little cognac, or maybe get you something neat in a glass and go have your stick. This is the album you want to put on. Fellas, if you're going out on a date or during a pandemic, a drive date, and you want to put a record on and just go sightsee, this is the record you want to put on. If you ladies, if you're having company over, or if you're having a girls' night for a wind down or whatnot, and y'all just want to chill and get your charcuterie board on, this is the record that you want to put on with your pinky in the air while you guys have your denim and diamonds on. This is that one. What am I saying? It's a pretty good piece of work. And I'll say it again for the cheap seats. Diddy has a slightly great ear for music. The music ear for this fella is cray. I'm going to switch a little bit if you guys don't mind. As you can see, I love to keep you guys in tuned. I love to keep you guys informed and most of all engaged. So let me just stop right here and ask you 4 things, right? I want you to like. I want you to subscribe. I definitely want you to subscribe. And I want you to comment down below if you are SMH, shaking your head on the Takaya situation, or if you can relate to the new Diddy record or anything that I'm going along with. I would love the engagement. But lastly, don't be a hater. Some of you are viewing, but I'm not getting like, or I'm not getting a subscription. Guys, I promise, heDONizm, along with the Donologues, are giving you much good programming. And I'm 7 in, so guess what? I'm rolling. So rock with me if you don't mind. But let me just pivot a little bit to some sports talk, right? Because I slid, how disrespectful of me, but I slid right over this, so I got to get it right. Let me just tip my hat and give a hand salute to Coco Gauff. I didn't do her justice in the last pod. So let me just let you guys know, if you don't know or been on a rock, that this 19-year-old tennis phenom is killing it. And how dare me slide over in a pod without acknowledging the fact that she's from the A. Okay, but her folks are from Boca Raton or Delray. Shout out to Delray. If you know, you know. Shout out to the Willies out there. They got people from Delray also. Very, very loving place of the FLA. And it's a good spot. And her folks are from there. So what do they say? Who raised you? Them folks from Delray, right? So she's been playing since she was 6 years old. And again, she was crowned the 2023 U.S. Open Women's Single Champion. So shout out to you, Coco Gauff. But let me just let you know, if you believe it, you can achieve it, right? So to the young folks out there that may be aspiring athletes in a certain sport, don't give up your dream. I'll say it again for my man Nas. Don't die with dreams inside, right? Listen to this for a little influence, if you don't mind. She clocked 5.6 M's. She clocked 5.6 million this year. And over the course of her, I believe it was 5 or 6 years as a pro tennis player, she's clocked somewhere around $11.1 million. So if you believe it, you can achieve it. But in addition to that, it's obvious that the young lady's a believer. Right after the match, she took to her knee. She gave homage to the Heavenly Father above. So this young lady is doing something right. And it's always well to highlight our youth, or they would turn our back on us at our elder states. So let's just give Coco her praise, her credit, her due. And from what I understand, she's got a little bit of that Williams strictness in her blood type. Now, I know she was coached by someone outside of her mother and her father, but from what I understand, through a little research, her mother was athletic, her father was athletic, but she was coached by some of those that coach Venus and Serena outside of her father. But I want to say this, Coco Gauff, if you are listening, I always dream big. You are giving us something to talk about. Remember the song, Let's Give Him Something to Talk About? You're giving us that. You're giving us water cooler conversations in the most unexpected places. But most importantly, you're giving us something that we can brag and boast about. Also in my sports talk, let me throw this at you guys, because I don't know if you were aware, but I just want to point out a few analytics just to let you guys know what's going on, because sometimes we witness things as a normalcy, but don't really know the context behind what we're seeing. But I just have to talk a little bit about ID&E, inclusion, diversity, and equity, or inclusion, diversity, and equity. Sometimes they switch the acronyms around because they didn't want to spell the word die. So I'll say it again, inclusion, diversity, and equity. In the NFL, not sure if you knew, but out of 32 teams, in the NFL this year, there are 14 black quarterbacks that took snaps on week 1. This year, let me point this out. You guys probably saw it, but let me just point out some facts about D-I-N-E or I-D-N-E when it comes to the NFL. And I don't think these are culture hires, right? I think we're going off of talent here. I really feel like we're going off of talent. Now, the coaching thing with the Rooney Rule, that's a whole nother conversation alone. I don't want to get into that joint right now, but let me just say, out of 32 teams in the NFL, week 1, 14 black quarterbacks took snaps. During the draft, 3 black quarterbacks were drafted in the first 5 picks. I'll say it again just in case you missed it, right? The first 5 picks, 3 of those guys were quarterbacks. And I thought that was amazing because we're talking about talent. And just in case you don't know who those individuals were, it was Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and also Anthony Richardson. So I got to see Bryce Young in the ATL this year in person, right up and close. Let me tell you something. This man is poised in the pocket. He can move, but he also can throw that thing. I mean, he literally shot it out like a rope. I mean, if you want to talk about tight roping from the pocket to the receiver, they're going to be making some moves in North Carolina. Now, you guys are in the division, but I'm not a hater. I do like to see the man succeed, but we got at him and we got the dub. I'll carry on. So I just wanted to point those facts out about ID and E when it came to leadership. They say that the quarterback position is the most pivotal, the most sought after, the most protected, and the most political position on the football field. And ladies or gentlemen that don't know, there's 11 on offense, there's 11 on defense. That's 22 players total, in addition to referees and officials that are on the field. But I will say this, probably that 1 out of the 22 players that are on the field is the quarterback that will have the most eyes and attention. If you know, you know. I'm going to also pivot. Let's take this thing to Colorado, if you don't mind. Are we going to finally admit that Coach Prime is real? That Coach Prime is real, and this is not the biggest talk in NCAA, right? I hope we can agree that this is not the biggest conversation in college football. I hope we can agree that this is the biggest talk in sports today. Right? He did his thing at JSU. And some may argue he bailed. He put the parachute on and jumped out before the plane could land. And we were safe and set to land. Do we really know what went on behind closed doors with the administration of JSU and also their forward thinking? The trajectory of what they wanted for the future versus Coach Prime's playbook or his layout and plan and forecast for JSU. I don't think those two align. But here's one thing we can say, and we can't argue with this. You can try, but I don't think we can argue with this. If you disagree with what I'm about to say, comment down below. Either give me a show enough or give me a hell no, I disagree, Don. But I want to hear from you, and I'll respectfully read and agree or disagree, and I'll reply. But here's the thing. Last time I checked, JSU got a chip under Coach Prime. That sounds like a completed assignment. Whether it was a short or long-term goal, mission accomplished. Or were we forming a narrative that we typically do in our community? Yes, waiter, I don't want anything to drink, but may I have a water and 18 lemons, please? You guys know what I'm talking about. Well, we're going to drain them dry, or was mission accomplished? Because last time I checked, JSU is doing pretty good this year. I could be wrong, but I believe Coach Prime appointed the head coach that's in position right now at JSU. And from what I understand, and Cedric, if you're out there listening, keep me honest, said attended JSU, and he actually played corner, I believe. But they're doing pretty good. But there was a matchup, right? Colorado State at Colorado. They had to go to Buffs country. And I want to call out an individuals because I'm speaking from a fan perspective only. I'm taking my profession out as an official, and I want to speak to safety Henry Blackburn. But I also, at the same breath and same tenor, right, same tone and tenor, I want to speak to the head coach of Colorado State. But safety Henry Blackburn. And this is rhetorical, obviously, because this is a monologue. But were you coached and instructed to take Travis Hunter's head off? This is something you got to answer to yourself in the mirror, right? Because if so, that's foul. Again, I'm speaking from a fan perspective. I do not have stripes on. I'm not representing any organizations with my statement. Let me be clear. This is the heDONizm podcast. But as a fan watching on Eastern time zone, which means that we gave our time and attention late at night for this amazing game. And you look like you was out there balling, but I'm going to tell you, if you did this because you knew Travis Hunter, shout out to Collins Hill High School. Side note, I'm putting my official's cap back on right now, but I actually officiated a couple of games with Travis Hunter at Collins Hill High School. I got to see the kid when he was wet behind the ears, but he was playing like a grown A man. Sidebar, back to Colorado State. Mr. Blackburn, was your hit malicious because you knew Travis was going to give you guys problems on offense and defense? If so, let me tell you something. I'm back to my fan hat. I got to distinguish the two, right? You're a hater. And I'm going to tell you right now, I said it before and I'll say it again. Football is a violent sport, right? It's authorized violence, but there are rules. There were flags everywhere after your hit. You know what that doesn't make? Good pro tape. I wish you the best because you look pretty talented for the few snaps that I saw. But if that's your plan, to give a late hit or a high hit like you did in the course of the man catching a pass, tight-roping the sidelines, you're a hater. And coach, shame on you. Your post-game comments were, and I'm talking Colorado State, your post-game comments were, well, it was on the other side of the field. I couldn't see that. Last time I checked, Colorado has instant replay. You saw it. You saw it. That hit was dirty. And to your players, I saw a lot of things out there. You coached them up to be haters, not players. Because you had the talent. The game was not as entertaining without talent. You had talent, so it made the game in true form entertaining. But I just feel in my heart of hearts, what did Gina and Martin say to Tommy about the line? He's scratching of the head. He's telling a lie. Let's look it up in the lie book. You was scratching the head a little too much. Nah, you was doing a little bit too much of that, right? That's called throwing a rock and hiding your hands. You should have took ownership of that and said, I'm going to have a one-on-one with Henry Blackburn. That's not what we coach here at Colorado State. But what did you say, my man? Well, I couldn't see it. It was on the other side of the field. But if you've missed it, ladies and gentlemen, I will say this. Watching Colorado is must-see TV. And before you guys go out start killing Coach Prime, let me just say this. If the man is speaking about faith and believing, and you disagree with what you see, and you got funky donkey things to say about it, you're a hater. You're a hater. You know, Dion, I categorize, and if you guys see over my left shoulder down to the bottom, your right, bottom right, you'll see that I had to break out the diamond turfs. Now, I've been having these shoes forever and a day, but I just said, let me break them out and bring them as a guest on a pod. So they back there chilling. Diamond turfs, you got anything to say? Oh, Must Be the Money. Yeah, you remember that? Coach Prime, Must Be the Money. When he had the Jerry curl, he said it looked wet, but it was dry. Let me ask y'all a question out there. Did y'all have the Jerry curl? The Wave Nouveau, the S curl, the Optimum. I think that was the name of it. Did y'all have the curl out there? And also, was yours dry, although it looked wet? But y'all remember the joint, right? Must Be the Money. Dion, I can't remember if he was singing or if he was giving tune over lyrical references, but nonetheless, we are witnessing the maturation of Prime in his truest form. One thing you can't say is this man is fake about what he is. He's been this way. But I always say this: if you can back up what you do, salute. You know, guys, there was something unique and dope about the 80s when it came to hip hop, right? I've already spoke about Ralph McDaniels and the box and the video jukebox and how that was what we had to keep our ears and eyes, the look, see, and feel of hip hop to the streets based on where you was geographically, right? The Ralph McDaniels project or the Ralph McDaniels movement helped us expand what Houston looked like to a New Yorker, or it helped us expand what Florida looked like to a California. So with that being said, we did have two other major platforms that was in the Viacom connection or the cable connection. And as you can see, I'm rocking and representing today. Which was your favorite? Was it Yo MTV Raps or was it BET's Rap City? Later called BET's Rap City The Basement. I'll get into that a little bit later. But Yo MTV Raps had a run, y'all. It was 1988 to 1995. It started out with the original Fab Five Freddy. You guys probably remember him. If you were not a New York native, you may not have known who Fab Five Freddy was. But most of us who were outside of the New York circuit probably knew of Fab Five Freddy through the Blondie song Rapture. When she mentioned the Fab Five Freddy told me everybody's fly, DJ Spinning and I said my. Y'all remember that joint, right? Where Blondie actually hit that little rap. We was like, oh, snap. And DJs would bring that piece back all the time. And not to mention that the song was a bop, you know, for what it was, Blondie's Rapture, it was just one of them joints that you put on and everybody got their groove onto it. But nonetheless, Yo MTV Raps made a stamped on MTV as an apparent voice for the hip hop community. Do you guys remember when do you guys remember when NWA was on the back of the trailer of the truck and they was taking Fab Five Freddy through Compton? But you may also remember when Ice Cube left NWA, he went on Yo MTV Raps to proclaim the discord between him and NWA. But guess what? There was no Instagram or Twitter or social media back then. So this was kind of our instant gratification, if you will. If we wanted to know what was behind the Word Up magazines and the newspaper and some of our headlines, you got to understand, hip hop had to strap up its boots and make its way in front of the television screen. Because according to politicians, according to rockheads, rap was crap. And rap was whack, right? During the 80s, there was the crack era, but a lot of that was associated with rap, although rap was telling stories of the oppressed. Rap was telling stories of communities. Rap was telling stories of the hood. So back to Yo MTV Raps, when they were giving us behind the scenes, Fab Five Freddy was the man with the mic in his hand that went to a lot of MCs who was hot or not at the time and was pretty much asking them tough questions during the time block that Rap City was on. Let me take you back to a place which made Yo MTV Raps so eccentric, so viable to history of hip hop today. So back in, I can't remember the time frame, but hip hop took a boycott to the Grammys. And I want to say it was 88 also or 89, right? And it had to be around that time frame because their run was 88 to 95. So somewhere in the beginnings, the birth of Yo MTV Rap, did hip hop take boycott to the Grammys? Why? because they were shutting out or muting hip hop from their respect due. What did they do? They wanted to do the category for best hip hop performance during a commercial. Nonetheless, Yo MTV Raps was one to exploit the stance that hip hop took when they boycotted the Grammys. And the dope part was MTV showed their presence at the Grammys, but not in that fashion, right? Maybe for the rock categories, because MTV was known for their rock and whatnot. But MTV, as bold as they are, they went to the after party, took the whole bit, took the whole gig line, took the whole camera crew to the after party and said, here's where the MCs were. And they started to interview and they started to talk to most of the people that were there. So Yo MTV Raps was significant for their bold take on their representation for hip hop. And salute to you, Fab Five Freddy. You was always articulate. You was always smooth. You didn't try to look like an MC. You didn't try to be somebody you were not. You were your organic self, and we love that about you, Fab Five Freddy. So don't you go one day without thinking that you didn't make a significant dent in hip hop. Shout out to Sway as well for his role on hip hop. But as Fab Five Freddy went on to other ventures within MTV, you later had Ed Lover and Dr. Dre. And I'm not talking about the chronic Dr. Dre, but I'm talking about Ed Lover and Dr. Dre. And we can't forget about T Money with his many characters on there. But Ed Lover and Dr. Dre brought another human, right? So let me just take you back just for a second, right? Back in the day, we used to have Saturday morning cartoons, right? And there used to be skit-based shows that would have you literally slapping the knee or throwing up laughing, right? So Ed Lover and Dr. Dre kind of gave us that I can't wait to get home so I can see Yo on TV Raps, because you knew Ed and Dre, no matter what kind of day you were having, they were going to bring the full animation, but also give you a taste of soul, or also give you a taste of the streets via hip hop, that being rap music. So it was a great run for them as well. But I will say this, had it not been for Yo MTV Raps, we would have never known the identities and the human character of some of our MCs. Do y'all remember when Pac, I think Pac had on the Car Kanai joint and a hat. He was on with Ed Lover and Dr. Dre, right? And Pac was literally regurgitating from the mouth about his discord with the Hughes brothers. Yeah, y'all remember Hughes brothers, right? Menace to Society. Well, had it not been for Yo MTV Raps, we would have never known that Pac was supposed to be a cast member in Menace to Society. But because he had a run-in and was about to do the Hughes brothers, he was fired from Menace to Society, and alleged Pac was supposed to be the role of either KD or O-Dog, one of those two, but nonetheless, they were trying to get as many hip-hop artists as they could into Menace to Society, but had it not been from Yo MTV Raps, we would not have known about that. And Pac went to jail. Pac actually went to jail because the Hughes brothers actually subpoenaed the footage from the Yo MTV Raps interview that Ed and Dre had with Pac. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember Ed Lover literally holding Pac back as if Pac, Pac would be one to spit at the camera. Pac was just Pac. There'll be another Pac, and that's what make him so revolutionary, an MC of its own right, because Pac just didn't give a bleep. Pac was that one when it came to, this is my stance and I'm standing on it. Not on. I can go on and on. But that's what made Pac Pac. But I remember Ed Lover holding him back, and Ed Lover was actually putting his hand over Pac's mouth. Pac don't play that, right? But Pac knew that Ed Lover was within his own right because he was going in. But at the same time, Pac just didn't care. The finale for Yo MTV Raps was August 17th, 1995. So again, they had a good run. But this was probably one of the greatest days in hip hop. They said another great day in hip hop was when a lot of MCs took the stoop, and I want to say it was either in Brooklyn. I want to say it was in Brooklyn, where they took a iconic photo. I have a book that talks about that great day in hip hop, and I'm sorry I don't have the the literature right off the bat, but I will come back and give you guys a little context and history on what I'm referring to. But they said that was one of the greatest day in hip hop because almost every MC who was hot or not showed up for this picture, and it was maybe 100 plus MCs that took this picture, and it was so significant. And yes, I have the photo in the book that I have, but this was known, August 17th, 1995, was known as one of the greatest days in hip hop. Why? Because the show went off the air, Yo MTV Raps, that is, not MTV, Yo MTV Raps, aired its last show with a freestyle rap session. And I want to say the mistake they made with that freestyle session was they gave the letter R the mic first. Oh, my goodness. We talking Rakim, y'all. And I want to say some that followed was KRS-One, Large Professor. Who else was on there? Was Search was on there from Third Base. I'm drawing a blank right now, but Chubb Rock was on the joint. There was some MC. Special Ed was there. I'm drawing a blank right now, but just the fact that even if MCs didn't take the mic, they showed up. I mean, it was standing room only in there. And there was even a memorable moment where Public Enemy was performing and Flav was doing his Flav joint, you know, his Fit or Convulsion type thing. Flav was doing his joint, which we all do today when we in our bag, right? And then some crack fell out his pocket and Chuck D picked it up. That kept the performance going. But when we're talking live, this show was live, right? So it wasn't no pre-record, and we'll come back. And the last thing, and I'm going to get off of Yo MTV Raps, was they try to mute Ed and Dre because they were actually speaking from a conscious mindset. They were actually speaking from the voice of the people, and MTV basically gave them a soft gag order to tone it down a bit. So I thought that was unique, but also that's what we had love for Ed and Dre, just because they wasn't having that. You know, they bit the bullet, went on with it. I want to say they was the police officers and Who's the Man. Y'all remember that movie? But nonetheless, Yo MTV Raps, we salute you. We thank you for the history that you gave us. We thank you for your contributions to hip hop. But you also had a competitor out there, which was on Black Entertainment Television. And if you guys don't remember, the BET Rap City had its run also, a pretty fair shake at a run. I don't know if it was because it was on Black Entertainment Television or not, but BET's Rap City had a run from 1989 to 2008. That's a pretty good run if you ask me. But Rap City was created by Alvin Jones. Do y'all remember AJ? Do y'all remember Alvin Jones, a.k.a. the unseen VJ, right? You used to hear his voice all the time, and this is Rap City. You know, he had that voice and tone that made you want to see who the brother was, but you know he was kicking another video, so it didn't matter. But nonetheless, Alvin Jones kicked off the show, and I'm just going to name some of the VJs just so you know how much greatness they had on the roster. The show started out with its original host, Chris Thomas, also known as the mayor of Rap City. And he was most known, he was a comedian, but he was most known for his impressions. He did the presidents and he did a lot of actors, your Bill Cosby's and some of those things. But imagine sitting down watching a VJ give his impression in a voice or tone of Bill Cosby kicking to a Public Enemy video. So Chris Thomas, thank you for all your contributions as well. And then that later came Hans Dobson, a.k.a. Prime, right? He had a short run, but Prime was getting knee deep into some of those on-sites, the street interviews and some of those intricate interviews that time cannot bring us back. So thanks, Prime, for bringing us that. And then here's my boy, right? Because this is when I was in the DMV, and this is my guy. We actually used to run them strings together. But Prince Dejour, you guys may have remembered him from Teen Summit with the pretty hair. Y'all remember Prince Dejour, pretty boy. That was my guy. Prince Dejour later on was a VJ or a video jock on Rap City. And we cannot forget Slim and Joe Cleasy, a.k.a. Cleasy and Joe Claire and Leslie. Y'all know her as Big Les, Dancing Fanatic. Y'all know Big Les, Joe Cleasy and Big Les. And Big Les, she actually was there for a run, and then she had to move on because she went to Video Soul, I believe, with Brett Walker. But nonetheless, we had Joe Claire and Big Les doing that. And then came my guy, T.I. Double Gur, right? Again, I was in the DMV. I was stomping in the DC during that time, and that's home for me, y'all. If you know, you do know. So Big Tigger was later on the host, and I gotta give shout out to Tigger, but I'll come back to him. You later on had DJ Mad Links, and then you had Jay Nix and Q45. So the show lost its luster, but I will say that it was great, and the show did a lot of things. Let me just pause right here and shout out DJ CeeLo out of Nashville, Tennessee. He even had a guest spot on that joint where T.I. was a guest VJ on Rap City, and CeeLo was on there representing on the ones and twos, representing well. Salute, CeeLo. But let me get back to my man T.I. Double. So Big Tigger kind of took the basement where it needed to go. I'm sorry, Big Tigger took Rap City to where it needed to go, and that was the basement, right? So they even formulated a studio set, or it could have actually been in a real basement. We'll never know, just because of how they formatted the show. And they had this room with a toilet and a sink. So, and it was in a compartmentalized room, right? So it was supposed to have the look, see, and feel of a bathroom. But as we know, if you're making a studio out of the home, you know you can get probably your best acoustics in a shower or a closet. So that was the significance of the toilet and the sink being there. Did it work? I don't know. I don't want to think about that. But anyway, Big Tigger carried the joint all the way to the point where it was called the basement. And in addition to that, people would actually come in the basement. Tigger had an unseen persona with Mom Dukes upstairs, which we never saw. But yet they were downstairs getting it in. As most of us were raised and how we grew up, being in the basement, being in the unused room of the house so the company can come over and yada, yada. So this was the format of how Rap City set the tone for the basement. But Tigger, I got to salute you again, because not only did MCs come on as guests, they had to touch the booth, right? I know Sway keeps it alive today on Sway in the Morning. Thank you, Sway. Thank you, Sway. You do have the answer, Sway. But I will say that back during this run, Tigger had some of the most lyrical best on the basement. But I got to tip my hat to you, T.I. Double. You could hold your own in that booth as well. We remember you on many features, or at least I got some records still with you as guest features on some of them records. But I got to say that Big Tigger was not only an MC, Big Tigger was also on WPGC, along with the Green Eye Bandit, Donnie Simpson on WPGC. WPGC in DC was almost like the radio version of BET, what you saw, right? Because most of the VJs, the video jocks that were on BET were on, or you heard them on WPGC, or they came through. Prince DeJour was on PGC. Big Tig was on PGC. Donnie Simpson was on PGC. Joe Cleese was on PGC. And the joint was just slamming to the point where I got to thank WPGC for giving me airtime, because I used to do some of the guest DJs, Ghost Ride Outs, on the Friday night traffic mix. So shout out to WPGC. I miss you guys. I love you. I thank you for the many opportunities that I had. But Slim, Tigger would body the boots. And one of my most memorable moments of Rap City was when Knowledge came on. Yes, Knowledge reigns supreme. KRS-One was on Rap City with the homie Tigger, and Slim got in the booth and bodied the joint. Like, Tig was literally neck and neck with KRS-One. So dope that Tig took a spot, stopped, and gave props to DJ Scott LaRock. And I thought that was ill. And KRS-One came back and thanked Tig for the shout and homage to Scott LaRock in freestyle fashion. So you know these cats didn't write. So it's just the talent and the aspect of what Rap City brought. And I'm just tying it together. And I got to insert myself in here personally. And I got to keep talking about Tigger, because ideally I was all things hip hop. Right. But I remember I was at the University of Maryland DJing, and I had to open up with a go-go set. Right. And whenever you did a go-go set, it's an enormous amount of pressure. Right. Because you got to know how to mix and keep it in the pocket, because a lot of go-go music, let alone go-go music that was on records, the tempos change, the beats per minute change, because the pocket changes. The pocket may stop. The go-go band may go into a whole different set or song. within a 5 to 10 minute set. So you got to know how to actually blend and mix go-go music. I'm going to talk about go-go. Y'all hold your seats, buckle up. I'm coming back to that in due time. Bear with me. It's coming. I just got to do it justice. So be patient with me. It's coming. Shout out to the DMV. But nonetheless, I'm doing a go-go set, and here's some of the people who was on the roster. It was Craig G. It was Big Tigger. I want to say Fat Joe was there. Ron G was there, and they was like, okay, we supposed to do some up top stuff. We got to do some New York stuff, but you guys know, and this is where I literally just pause and my heart just flutters. If you're nice like that, and you're on the ones and twos, it really ain't about being nice. I ain't talking about me. I'm talking about the others. It really ain't about being nice. Do you know how to do a crowd, right? So not only that, I was nice with it, kept it in the pocket. And you know, when you get a pocket in DC, there's this thing called a mosh pit. The mosh pit, the joint was popping so much, and I had it in the pocket to the point where I knew I was only supposed to do a certain amount. If you've ever DJ'd with co-DJs or other DJs, and I'll just say it for the record, for those that know me, know Dale JC Wiz, Low, Spaz, all of y'all know I hate doing co-DJs because you want to do more than the outside. Kev, shout out to Clef, shout out to Elliot Ness, shout out to all the cats that know me. I literally cannot stand doing co-DJ sets because sometimes when you get in a groove, when you get in a pattern or a rhythmic pocket, you want to keep that thing going. But it's unwritten rules, right, to keeping your time within a time, getting off, letting the other DJ go, and whoever your main DJ is for the night, they get to go. They're on the bill for the night, so you got to respect that. But nonetheless, they told me keep the pocket going. We up here to do some New York stuff. You might want to keep that thing going. The party's jumping. We ain't trying to kill the crowd. In addition to that, we need a couple more minutes before we get on the mic because we're going to have to change things out. So it's going to be dead air. But I only had so many records because in a DJ bag, you can only carry so many records, and you can carry records in your hands. And yes, we were using techniques. We were using turntables. And usually when you come as a guest DJ, not only do you bring your records, you got to bring your needles. You got to bring your needles because you know you don't trust nobody else's needles when you are gigging. So it was kind of like I was running out of records. So guess what I had to do? I started rocking the B-sides of these records. But guess what? In true DMV fashion, we kept the party going. Pockets were locked. We was getting it. It was always to the go-go we went. And I just got to shout out the big homie Tigger because he was pretty much on the mic while I was doing my set. And let me tell you something. Big Tigger is still doing it to this day. He's got the morning show on V103 here in the ATL. Tigger is the official DJ for the Atlanta Falcons. So when I tell you hip-hop is everywhere and the evolution of hip-hop is just a beautiful thing where it makes me emotionally proud, it's something that I can actually stick my neck out about. Now, thank you, hip-hop. I really get emotionally caught up when it comes to hip-hop. But let me transition for a second just because we know how large hip-hop is. We know what hip-hop does, and we know how hip-hop can bring them out, which is hard to yell with the barrel in your mouth. Shout out to Tip. But I want to talk about something I saw a while back. This is not new news. This is not new information, but it brought a concern to me because recently I've seen some echoing of what I witnessed before. So let me get into my political bag just for a second, right? And let me just state that we're coming up on fall, and yes, the pumpkin spice is in full effect. You guys are seeing the fall, everything. They skip straight over Thanksgiving, and you'll see Christmas trees next. But the pumpkin spice is in full effect, and for this particular reason, I'm saying that, hey, things get kind of spooky when it comes to the fall and when pumpkin spice comes out here. So just like Jigsaw, the horror guy said, do you want to play a game? I'm actually seeing some games out here in these political streets. And these cats are already playing games. And I want to come back to this guy because I think social media went over this too fast. But I find it disgusting, and I'm going to tell you what it is. But y'all saw him, right? During some of the campaigns, or some of the campaign as they go from city to city, and let me be more specific, when they go to some of the small cities, because if you guys didn't know, local elections matter. I keep saying this, that local elections matter. So please don't skip over those local elections and don't skip over your local politics. But anyway, a camera showed up, and this was quite visible, of this man that had on a white tee. And on that white tee was some black, big, bold letters. Y'all know where I'm going. But it said, "In splats for Trump." You heard what I said. There's nothing wrong with me keeping it cute. "In splats for Trump." And why is it when national media, world media come to the hood or come to the small towns, they find the biggest dodo that they could possibly find? But they just so happen to go, oh, cameraman, follow me. What we got? We're going to interview somebody. Yeah, look at him. Oh, I see him. Camera's rolling and action. And this dude walks up, and there's a young lady with him with a MAGA hat on. To each his own. Hey, listen, I'm not here to sway your vote. I'm not telling you who to vote. But one thing I am saying is our ancestors fought and bled for our right to exercise, for our ability, to exercise our right to vote. And for those of you that sit on a couch during election days, shame on you. Get up and vote. Matter of fact, after the pod, like, comment, subscribe. But after the pod, go to vote.gov and verify that you are legally and officially registered. Now, I can speak about the state of Georgia, and I'll keep it right here. During the pandemic, right, there were a lot of individuals. Let me state it correctly. There were a lot of citizens and registered voters who were purged out of the system and asked to re-register. Now, you should only have to register one time, and then you modify that if you move, if you get married, if you get a name change, all of the things that constitute you to modify your voter's registration. But you should only have to register one time. But for some odd reason, Governor, there was a plot to purge registered voters. So I'll say again, don't let this be something that pops up like a bad ding on your credit report. Check it frequently. Your vote matters. Your vote is important. Go to vote.gov and verify that you are legally and officially registered as a voter, right? So I'm not here to sway any of that. So don't get it twisted, right? But this cat was walking around with a shirt that said, "In splats for Trump." And the young lady put a mic in front of his mouth. So here we go with the gibberish. Nowadays, everybody want to talk like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips, just a bunch of gibberish. Remember Eminem said that on Dre's record? I'll say it again for the cheap seats. Nowadays, everybody want to talk like they got something to say, but nothing comes out when they move their lips, just a bunch of gibberish. In splats for Trump. And they said, "So who are you voting for?" And he said, "I'm voting for old Don Teasy." Y'all know his name. And also went further and said it with his chest. "I think he should be king." And the lady on his right with the MAGA hat on was like, "Yeah, I agree. I agree." And she asked, "What do you think about certain policies that are in place right now?" And this dude said it was some straight up bull swanky. Don Teasy knows what it's doing. I'll say again, I'm not here to sway your vote. I'm not here to discourage you from voting, because some people have the mindset of my vote don't matter. You sure about that? When right now, if you go out and look at the polls, Biden and Trump are like neck and neck. For the GOP, I can tell you right now, it's a landslide for Trump. But old Governor DeSantis is right in the rear, right? It's just amazing at how you can be as to how there can be so many crimes committed and you still be on the docket. Listen, guys, the court is packed. I told you, the court is packed. You know, shout out to Duke and Fest, my childhood friends. But back in the day, we used to go to night court. This is BC. This is before COVID. Back when we were children, right? Or young lads, right? Young whippersnappers. We used to go to night court just to watch the dodos come in there, drunk, disorderly, discombobulated, but some even desperate. But you can sit in the seats to watch people as they go and talk to the magistrate or the judge. But the court is packed. And that is the court of public opinion. So I'll say it again. I'm not here to sway your vote. But you have to you must stand for something or you'll fall for anything. Listen, guys, I'm going to get out of here. But let me just let you guys know something that I witnessed the other day. And it's not my place to judge. I told you about the court is packed. It's not my place to judge this young lady. Beautiful young lady. Tooth missing and everything. But she still carries a persona of someone who is a beautiful person. And I think what makes her beautiful is the same thing I say, what you need to adorn yourself with when you come to the heDONizm podcast. And it's not materialistic, but it's your truth. Why? Because it looks good on you. I want to talk about Krishan Rock before I get out of here. And I know about Krishan Rock because for some odd reason, my algorithm hit an all-time high, right, of her and Blueface, right? She's from Baltimore. She's from the DMV. Blueface is a rapper, right? And they came together and made this relationship thing happen. Or is it not a relationship? Is it a relationship? They're calling them the modern day Bobby and Whitney 2.0. But I don't remember Bobby and Whitney being on this level. And so much in the camera's eye that where we can see everything that these two individuals are doing. Toxic is the best word I can use for the two individuals as it comes to a relationship goal. And you wouldn't believe it. Some people out there are like Krishan and Blueface, couple goals. Hashtag couple goals. Really? To each his own. To each his own. But one thing I want to talk about Krishan Rock is recently this lady, we talked about Takaya Young being a mother expecting a child. But she was doing dodo stuff. So again, I say to each his own here. I'm just here to give my opinion. But Krishan Rock took to Insta Live. She went to Instagram Live and publicly displayed the birth of her child. We're in a day and age where everything is accessible for everybody. And it's no longer recruited information, sought after information. It's just in your face. It's just in your face. Nonetheless, this young lady, she was looking amazing, laying up there, about to give birth to a child, bring a kid or an individual into this world. But this gives whole new meaning for do it for the gram. But in a day and time where the internet can be full of nonsense, I had to look at this from a different lens. It was amazing to see this young lady go from, this is my opinion, from what appears to be in a toxic relationship, always full of toxicity, to see this young lady, and I heard this lady is actually walking or trying to walk a life in a straight and narrow. If you know, you know. But to see this young lady look so happy and the support system that she had. And if you heard the ad-libs in the background, you know they were there. She has support. But it was great to see when social media displays so much nonsense that this lady decided to share with us the gift of life. It's a special moment. And I don't know if it's motive driven. I took that out of the equation. I just looked at the fact that when social media is so full of nonsense, this young lady decided to share with us a gift of life. It's a special moment, and it's something that we all should consider how special we are to be here. Guys, as you know, this cancel culture thing, it's something else. I gave you guys the soliloquy last week about you being a DJ. Are you playing R. Kelly? If you're still battling with that question, because some of them took to the streets with me. Hey, Don, I got a bone to pick with you. Oh, we had some great conversations. Shout out to Kyle. Shout out to B. Shout out to Donna. We got it in. Shout out to Sean. We had some great convo. Oh, we were getting it in. And some great perspectives. Some that I didn't even think about. I heard from women. Ooh. Great perspective. And stand by because Donna's coming on here. But let me get back to my closing point, right? The fact that she shared the gift of life with us live on social media, to me, was beautiful. And to see this lady's humility once her child arrived. And I wanted to follow up and just how amazing the interaction was between Krishan and her child was beautiful. So I'll leave you with this in the words of Tupac. You are appreciated. Until we meet again, guys.